I used to think avoiding him was the safest way to survive high school. And maybe it was until fate shoved me right into his orbit, daring me to confront every emotion I swore I'd never admit. His name was Ryan Carter, captain of the basketball team, center of every rumor, adored by teachers and feared by half the student body. The kind of boy who walked down the hallway and made the fluorescent lights feel like they were spotlighting him. And me? I was the shadow that slipped between lockers, invisible except when someone needed a quiet laugh or answers to homework. I had spent nearly 3 years mastering the art of avoidance, taking side routes, pretending to be fascinated by floor tiles whenever his crowd appeared, even ducking into the library to dodge the storm that followed him. But no one escapes forever, especially not when junior year English decided to assign the dreaded semester-long project in pairs. When Mrs. Turner read out the names, my heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest. Ryan Carter and Daniel Hayes. The class reacted the way a crowd does when a magician pulls a rabbit out of a hat. Half disbelief, half gleeful curiosity. I felt 20 pairs of eyes swivel to me, burning holes through my skin. Ryan turned his head, and for the first time in years, our gazes collided. And just like that, I knew I was in trouble. The first meeting was torture. We sat across from each other in the library. His chair leaned back at a dangerous angle, his pen tapping against the table with the restless rhythm of someone who would rather be anywhere else. I clutched my notebook like it was armor, scribbling nonsense bullet points that even I couldn't read. "So," he said, his voice smooth, carrying that hint of arrogance that seemed sewn into his DNA. "How do you want to do this?" I nearly choked on my own tongue. "Do what?" "The project." His grin tilted, like he knew exactly how much power he had in this dynamic. "Unless you're planning to fail, Hayes." Hearing my last name roll off his lips was a shock, like he'd noticed me all along, tucked away in my corners. I adjusted my glasses, avoiding his stare. "We should split the work evenly." "Fine with me." He leaned forward now, suddenly serious. "But let's make one thing clear, you don't have to act like I'm gonna bite." "I don't." His eyes flicked over me, softer than I expected. "Not unless someone asks nicely." Heat crawled up my neck, and I buried my face in my notebook to hide it. Days turned into weeks, and our meetings became routine. Library sessions stretched longer than they needed to, filled with more bickering than planning, and something shifted. Ryan wasn't the golden boy everyone painted him to be. Beneath the confident swagger was a sharp mind that surprised me. He could dismantle a poem line by line, his insights disarming in their depth. And sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, his smile faltered, leaving a flicker of loneliness in its place. I shouldn't have cared, but I did. Against every rule I had written for myself, I began to notice things. The way his hands drummed against the desk when he was restless. The way he chewed his lip when he tried to phrase something carefully. The way he always walked me halfway home, even though he claimed he just happened to live in the same direction. And then came the night it all cracked open. It was raining, one of those relentless downpours that turned the streets into rivers. The library was closing early, and Ryan offered me a ride. I should have said no. Every instinct screamed to keep the walls up, but the thought of walking home drenched felt worse. The car smelled faintly of pine and something warm, like the remnants of his basketball practice. He fiddled with the radio, and for a while we sat in silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the steady drum of rain. "You ever get tired of pretending?" he asked suddenly. I turned to him, confused. "Pretending what?" "That you don't notice things, that you don't feel them." His voice was low, careful. "I see the way you look at me sometimes." My stomach dropped. My pulse hammered in my ears. "You're imagining things." He smirked, but it wasn't cruel. If anything, it was almost sad. "Maybe. Or maybe you're just too scared to admit it." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. And for the first time, the air between us felt alive, charged, heavy, and terrifyingly intimate. The next day at school, it was different. People whispered when they saw us together, laughter bubbling in hallways, mocking chants of Ryan's new best friend. I wanted to disappear, but Ryan, he didn't flinch. He walked beside me with the same easy stride, shoulders squared as if daring anyone to say it louder. "Why aren't you bothered?" I hissed when we ducked into the stairwell between classes. "Because they don't matter." His eyes pinned me in place. "What matters is what you think." "I think," I whispered, "that you should stay away from me." But even as I said it, my chest ached with the lie. The tension built like a storm no one could stop. Every glance lingered longer, every word carried double meaning. Nights stretched late into messages neither of us admitted to saving. And somewhere along the line, I stopped avoiding him. I started waiting for him. One evening after practice, he showed up at my house. My parents weren't home, and I stood frozen in the doorway as rain clung to his hair, dripping onto the porch. "Why are you here?" I asked, though my heart already knew. "Because I'm tired of pretending, Hayes." His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. "And I think you are too." I should have shut the door. I should have told him to leave. Instead, I stepped aside, and he walked in. That night blurred into something I'll never forget. Not because of anything physical, but because of the way he looked at me. Like I wasn't invisible anymore. Like I was the only person who saw him for real. We sat on the floor of my room, shoulders brushing, silence stretching thick. And then, without warning, he whispered, "Do you hate me?" The question knocked the air out of me. "What? Everyone thinks I've got it all together. But you always avoided me. Was it because you hated me?" I turned, meeting his eyes. They weren't arrogant now. They were wide, vulnerable, almost pleading. "No," I said softly. "I avoided you because I was afraid of what I felt." The room stilled. His breath hitched, and then slowly he leaned in. The kiss was tentative, a question more than an answer, but it was enough to unravel every wall I had built. And for the first time, I let myself fall. That was the beginning. But beginnings are dangerous because every beginning hides the risk of an ending. And in a small American town where reputations ruled, secrets never stayed secrets for long. The next morning, I woke up with the weight of his kiss still pressed into my chest. My room looked the same. Books stacked too high, posters peeling from the walls, but I felt like I had been rewritten overnight. I should have been terrified. I should have buried it, shoved it down like I had every other secret about myself. But when I got to school and saw Ryan leaning against my locker, waiting like it was the most natural thing in the world, I felt something dangerous. Hope. "Morning, Hayes," he said casually, handing me a coffee cup. "Figured you could use it." My mouth went dry. No one had ever waited for me before. No one had ever cared enough to bring me anything. But before I could respond, a group of basketball players walked by, and one of them whistled. "Hey, Carter, since when do you deliver coffee to your boyfriend?" Laughter erupted down the hall. My stomach twisted into knots. Ryan didn't even blink. He turned, smiled lazily at them, and shot back. "Since I realized none of you losers could handle caffeine without crying about it." The group laughed again, but this time it was at themselves. They walked off, still teasing, but the sting was less sharp. Me? I stood frozen, clutching the cup like it was both a shield and a bomb. "Why would you say that?" I hissed when they were gone. "Because they don't get to control how we act," he replied simply. "You let them see fear and they win. You let them see you don't care, and they shut up eventually." But I wasn't like him. I couldn't brush off whispers or hide behind charm. Every laugh, every glance felt like a knife pressed to my skin. "Not everyone can live like that," I muttered. He studied me, his eyes softer now. "Then let me carry some of it for you." As the weeks passed, the project became the least important thing between us. We still met in the library, still argued about analysis and structure, but the silences between paragraphs filled with something else. Glances that lingered, jokes that carried more weight than they should. The slow, unspoken awareness that we were slipping into dangerous territory. But danger didn't stop Ryan. He walked beside me in hallways, sat too close during lunch, even waited outside my last class just to walk me home. People noticed. Of course they did. One afternoon, as we were leaving school, a voice rang out behind us. "Hey, Carter. Didn't know you were tutoring nerds now." I stiffened. My backpack strap dug into my shoulder, the heat rising up my neck. Ryan turned, expression sharp. "Didn't know you were still failing algebra, Marcus. Guess we all have our hobbies." Snickers rippled through the crowd, and Marcus's smirk faltered. But the damage was done. The whispers started to spread, faster than wildfire. Ryan Carter and Daniel Hayes. Together. Always together. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Half were harmless memes from classmates, but the other half were cruel, mocking messages I wished I could unread. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I sat in the dark of my room, staring at the glow of my phone, wondering how long it would take for this to destroy me. The next day, Ryan found me in the library, hunched over a book I wasn't reading. He slid into the chair across from me, his jaw tight. "You're ignoring me," he said flatly. "I'm not. You are. You didn't answer my texts. You didn't even look at me in class." I swallowed hard. "Because everyone's talking. Because they won't stop. Let them." His voice was fierce, but not unkind. "They'll get bored. They'll get worse," I whispered. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "And what do you want me to do? Pretend you don't exist? Go back to ignoring you like you always wanted?" The words cut deeper than he knew. My throat burned as I forced myself to look at him. Maybe that would be easier. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Ryan leaned back, his expression guarded. "Easier for you, maybe. Not for me." That night, my parents noticed something was wrong. We were sitting at dinner, the clink of forks the only sound, when my mom finally asked, "Daniel, is everything okay at school?" I froze, fork hovering in the air. "Why?" "Your father and I heard some things," she said carefully. "About rumors. About you spending a lot of time with that Carter boy." My pulse spiked. My dad's face was unreadable, his knife slicing through his steak with deliberate force. "They're just rumors," I said quickly. "He's my project partner, that's all." The silence that followed was suffocating. My mom offered a thin smile, but her eyes lingered on me, searching for cracks. My dad said nothing, but I could feel the weight of his disappointment pressing down on me like a shadow. I excused myself as soon as I could, retreating to my room where I finally let the tears spill. Because maybe it wasn't just school I had to survive. Maybe it was home too. The following week was hell. Marcus and his friends started leaving notes in my locker. Crude drawings, ugly words, jokes that weren't really jokes. I threw them away before Ryan could see, but the humiliation clung to me like smoke. One afternoon, as we were walking out of school, Marcus shoved past me deliberately, sending my books crashing to the floor. Laughter erupted around us. Before I could react, Ryan grabbed Marcus by the collar, slamming him against the wall. "Do that again," he snarled, "and I swear you'll regret it." The crowd went silent. Marcus's smirk faltered into fear. "Ryan," I hissed, tugging at his arm. "Stop." Reluctantly, he let go, shoving Marcus back. The tension snapped, and the hallway erupted into murmurs. As we walked away, I whispered, "You can't do that. You'll only make it worse." "I don't care," he muttered, his fists still clenched. "I'm not letting them touch you." My chest ached at his words, because even if I wanted to believe him, I knew the world didn't bend just because Ryan Carter wanted it to. That night I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "Freak. Stay away from him. Everyone knows what you are." I turned it off, burying it under my pillow, but the words carved themselves into me, and I couldn't stop the spiral. By morning, I decided I couldn't do this anymore. When Ryan found me before class, I told him. "We can't keep this up." His brow furrowed. "Keep what up?" "Us. Whatever this is. It's ruining everything. My grades, my reputation. My family's already suspicious." "Daniel," he interrupted sharply, "do you even hear yourself? You're talking like this is some mistake we can just erase." "Maybe it is," I said, my voice breaking. His face twisted, pain flashing across his eyes. "So what? You're just gonna throw me away because you're scared?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. "Fine, if that's what you want." And for the first time, Ryan Carter walked away from me. The days after were worse than any rumor. I went back to being invisible, but this time it felt like suffocating instead of safety. I watched him from a distance, laughing with his teammates, charming teachers, slipping back into the role everyone expected. But sometimes, when no one else was looking, I caught him staring at me, and the hurt in his eyes was worse than any cruelty from our classmates. One night, I broke down completely. I sat on the floor of my room, clutching my knees, wishing I could turn back time, wishing I could be braver. Because the truth was clear, I didn't want to live without him. But wanting and having were two different things, and I didn't know if the world would ever let us have anything at all. The silence between Ryan and me stretched into days that felt like years. School became unbearable. Every corner of the building held traces of him, his laughter echoing down the hallway, the sound of sneakers squeaking on the gym floor, even the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the library where we once sat side by side. But now he wasn't mine to look at. He wasn't mine at all. And worse, people noticed. "Guess Carter finally came to his senses," Marcus sneered one afternoon, passing by my locker. "Didn't take long for him to get bored of you." I didn't answer. I kept my eyes down, my hands shaking as I shoved books into my bag. But inside, the words burned. Not because they were cruel, but because part of me feared they might be true. Ryan didn't defend me anymore. He didn't walk me home or bring me coffee or throw sharp comebacks at Marcus's taunts. He stayed with his team, with his crowd, his laughter louder than ever, as if to prove to the world, and maybe to himself, that nothing had changed. But it had, for both of us. At home, the tension grew heavier too. My mom hovered constantly, her questions wrapped in false cheer. "How's school, Daniel? Making new friends?" My dad, on the other hand, barely spoke, his silence worse than shouting. One evening, he finally broke it. I was at the dinner table, pushing peas around my plate, when he said, "I don't want you spending time with that Carter boy anymore." I froze. "We're just project partners. You think I don't hear things?" His tone was sharp, colder than I'd ever heard it. "You think I don't know what people are saying?" Mom touched his arm. "David." "No," his eyes cut to me. "This ends now. Whatever phase this is, it ends." Heat flushed my face. "It's not a phase." The words slipped out before I could stop them. The room went silent. My dad's jaw tightened, his knife clattering against his plate. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "We'll talk about this later." He left the room, the air crackling with anger. My mom's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. That night, I lay awake, my heart pounding. For the first time, the house I grew up in felt like a cage. At school, Ryan seemed to sense my unraveling. Even though we weren't speaking, I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. His gaze was intense, almost protective, like he was silently daring anyone to cross a line. But he never approached me, not until one night, a week after the fight with my dad. I was walking home late after staying in the library. The streets were empty, the air sharp with the bite of early winter. Suddenly, a car slowed beside me, headlights washing me in white. The window rolled down. "Need a ride?" It was Ryan. I froze, torn between the ache of missing him and the fear of what it meant to be seen with him again. "I'm fine," I said quickly. "Daniel." His voice was quiet, almost pleading. "Please." Something in his tone broke me. I nodded and climbed in. We drove in silence, the tension thick. Finally, I whispered, "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can't stand watching you fall apart," he admitted. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. "Because every time I see you, I want to fix it. And because I don't care what people think anymore." My chest tightened. "You should care. It's easier for you if you do." "Easier doesn't mean better." He glanced at me, his eyes raw. "I tried staying away. I can't. Not from you." The words lodged in my throat. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the memory of my father's face, the laughter in the hallways, the cruel messages, they all screamed that this couldn't last. I turned away, staring out the window. "Ryan, if we keep this up, it's going to destroy us. Or it's going to save us," he countered softly. We ended up parked outside the empty football field. The stadium lights glowed faintly, casting silver shadows across the bleachers. Ryan killed the engine, and silence swallowed us whole. "I don't care if this ruins my reputation," he said finally. "I don't care what my teammates think, or my dad or anyone else. All I care about is you." Tears stung my eyes. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." His voice cracked, fierce and fragile all at once. "You're the only person who's ever seen me. Not the athlete, not the golden boy, just me. And I'm not giving that up." I turned to him, my heart breaking open. "Do you even realize what you're saying? If people find out, if my dad..." "Then let them," he said firmly. "I'm done hiding." The intensity in his gaze was overwhelming. I wanted to believe we could fight the whole world together. But I was still terrified of what the world could do to us. Before I could answer, he leaned forward and kissed me. It wasn't tentative this time. It was fierce, desperate, filled with all the words we couldn't say out loud. And for that moment, sitting in the dark on empty bleachers, I let myself believe him. But the world wasn't going to let us keep our secret much longer. The next day, a photo appeared on social media. Blurry, grainy, but unmistakable. Ryan and me, sitting too close in his car, our faces lit by the faint glow of the dashboard. The caption read, "Guess the rumors were true." By lunchtime, the entire school had seen it. My phone buzzed nonstop, laughing emojis, slurs, messages from numbers I didn't know. When I walked into the cafeteria, the room went silent. Dozens of eyes burned into me. Whispers hissed through the air. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my tray. Then Ryan stood up. From across the room, he locked eyes with me, and before anyone could stop him, he walked straight over and sat down beside me. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, his presence loud enough to silence the entire room. The whispers grew sharper, uglier, but Ryan didn't move. He leaned close just enough for only me to hear. "Let them watch. and for the first time I realized he meant it. That afternoon, things escalated. Marcus cornered us in the parking lot, flanked by two of his friends. "You think you're special, Carter? Walking around like you own the place, holding his hand? You're a joke." Ryan's fists clenched. "Say that again." Marcus smirked. "What's the matter? Afraid people will find out your little boyfriend's nothing but a—" Ryan lunged. Chaos erupted. Shouts, fists, the sound of bodies slamming against car doors. I tried to pull him back, screaming his name, but he was locked in, rage pouring out of him in every punch. Teachers rushed in, breaking it apart. Ryan was dragged off, blood trickling from his lip, eyes blazing. Marcus was cursing, his face swollen, but his smirk was still there. The principal's office. Phone calls home. Suspension papers. That night, Ryan texted me one word: "Sorry." And I stared at the screen for a long time, tears blurring my vision, because I didn't know if he was apologizing for the fight or for loving me in the first place. Suspension didn't keep Ryan away from me. If anything, it pulled him closer. He texted me every night, little things like, "You okay? Don't listen to them, I miss you." But at home, things were worse than ever. My dad barely looked at me. When he did, it was only with sharp, disappointed eyes that cut deeper than any insult at school. My mom hovered nervously, trying to soften the edges, but she was caught in the middle, too afraid to choose a side. One night, my dad finally snapped. He stood in my doorway, his shadow filling the frame. "You are not seeing that boy again. Do you understand me?" I looked up from my desk, my heart pounding. "Dad." No, his voice was like thunder. "This ends here. I will not have a son who throws his life away for this." For the first time, I stood up to him. My knees were shaking, but my voice came out steady. "It's not a mistake, and I'm not ashamed." His face hardened. "You should be." The words knocked the air out of me. My mom appeared behind him, her face pale, whispering, "David, please." But he turned and left, the door slamming behind him like a final verdict. That night, I packed a small bag. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. And I knew exactly who I needed to see. Ryan opened the door, his hair tousled, his lips still healing from the fight. His eyes widened when he saw me standing there, bag in hand, tears streaking down my face. "Daniel," his voice broke. I didn't let him finish. I stepped forward and threw my arms around him, burying my face against his chest. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered, shaking. "I can't hide. I can't pretend. If I have to choose between losing them or losing you, I choose you." For a long moment, he just held me, his arms wrapped tight, his heart pounding against mine. And then, softly, he said, "You don't know how long I've waited to hear that. But love doesn't erase consequences." The photo had spread further than we realized. By Monday, it wasn't just school. It was parents, neighbors, whispers in the grocery store, side glances at church. My dad refused to drive me anymore. My mom cried at night when she thought I couldn't hear. Ryan's family wasn't much better. His father, a former athlete, shouted about disgrace, about reputation, about how Ryan was throwing away his future. They fought so loud I could hear it through the phone when Ryan called me late at night, his voice raw with exhaustion. "I can't stay here forever," he admitted one night. "They'll never accept it." "Neither will mine," I said quietly. There was a pause. Then softly, "Then maybe we don't need them." The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Marcus and his crew cornered me behind the gym after school. I was alone, my backpack heavy, my heart racing. Well, Marcus sneered. "Where's your boyfriend now? Guess he's not around to play hero." Before I could react, they shoved me. My back slammed against the brick wall, pain sparking through my shoulders. Laughter erupted around me. "Leave him alone." The voice cut through the air like fire. "Ryan." He charged in, fury in every step. Fists flew, shouts echoed, chaos erupted. Teachers rushed in again, pulling him off, dragging Marcus away. But this time I didn't stay silent. In front of everyone, teachers, students, the whole damn crowd, I stepped forward and grabbed Ryan's hand. Gasps rippled through the air. Marcus spat blood, glaring at us. "You're dead, both of you." Maybe he meant it as a threat. But as I stood there, hand in Ryan's, my heart steady for the first time in weeks, I realized it was a promise. Promise that we'd keep fighting. The school called our parents again. The shouting was worse than ever. Ryan's dad threatened to pull him off the team. My dad threatened to send me to another school. But for once, neither of us backed down. That night, Ryan and I sat on the hood of his car in a quiet parking lot, the stars faint above us, our breaths fogging in the cold. "I don't know what's going to happen," I admitted. "Maybe they'll never accept it. Maybe it'll always be like this." Ryan turned, his eyes soft. "Then we'll build something they can't break." Tears filled my eyes. "How?" He reached over, threading his fingers through mine. "By refusing to let them win. By loving each other anyway." The simplicity of it undid me. I leaned into him, and under the quiet night sky, we kissed. Not out of fear, not out of desperation, but out of defiance, out of hope. The months that followed weren't easy. Rumors never truly died, but they dulled with time. Marcus lost interest once teachers kept him under watch. My dad's silence stretched on, colder than ever, but my mom began leaving little notes on my desk. "Be safe. I love you." It wasn't full acceptance, but it was something. Ryan's father stayed angry, but his mom quietly slipped us snacks when I visited. Her small smile saying more than words. Slowly, painfully, the world shifted. And through it all, Ryan stayed. Even when I doubted myself, even when I wanted to run, he was there. One spring evening, months later, we sat in the bleachers, the field empty, the sky streaked with pink and gold. Ryan leaned back, his arm brushing mine. "You remember the first time we sat here?" he asked. I laughed softly. "Yeah, you kissed me, and I thought it was the end of the world." He smiled, his eyes warm. "Turns out it was just the beginning." I looked at him, at the boy I once swore to avoid, at the boy who shattered every wall I built around myself. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt free. Because love hadn't destroyed us. It had saved us. In the end, the whispers faded. The stares dulled. The fights lessened. And while the world hadn't fully accepted us, we had learned something more important. We didn't need its permission. All we needed was each other. And as Ryan's hand closed around mine in the fading light, I knew, whatever came next, whatever battles still waited, we'd face them together. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.